You have 10 minutes to complete these problems. When you have 2 minutes remaining, I will warn you that 2 minutes remaining. In addition, I will warn you when there are 30 seconds remaining. When I say pencils down, please put down your pencils and stop. At the end of that time, I will show you how to correct your paper and how to get the right answers. Thank you. You may begin. You have 2 minutes remaining. You have 30 seconds remaining. Pencils down. For question number 1, we're trying to find the value of x if line L is a straight line and the triangle given is equilateral. The first thing we know is that since the 3 angles of the triangle add up to 180, that means each one of the angles inside the triangle must be 60 degrees. So let's put a little 60 in here so we know what's going on. 60. Okay, great. The next thing we know that is if that angle is 60 and line L is a straight line, that means the 60 plus the x must make up the whole straight line. Since we know that a straight angle is 180 degrees, that means x must be equal to 180 minus the 60 that we already have, which equals 120. Okay, so our final answer for question number 1 should be 120 degrees. Okay, great. For question number 2, they tell us that we're dealing with an isosceles triangle. Remember that an isosceles triangle means that it has 2 equal sides and one side that is of a different length. It also means that it has 2 equal angles opposite those sides and then one angle of a different measure. Well, if 2 angles are the same, it's important to note that they can't both be obtuse. Because reminder, if we have one obtuse angle in a triangle, that means the other 2 must both be acute. So here, when we're talking about an isosceles triangle that has an angle of 95 degrees, that means that's our largest angle, and there must be 2 other angles that are smaller and equivalent. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, since the total number of degrees in the triangle is 180, we'll do 180 minus the 95 given, which is equal to 85. Okay? The second thing to note is, well, if 85 degrees is the measure of the 2 remaining angles put together, that means one of them must be 85 divided by 2, which equals 42.5 degrees. Okay? You can write that as 42.5. You can write it as 42.5. You could even leave it as 85 over 2. Okay? Great. Thanks. Problem number 3 is a really great problem, but there are a couple things we need to note first. One of them is that the rectangle is given by its dimensions, and its dimensions are in inches. The second thing we want to note is that the square is given with a perimeter instead of dimensions, and its perimeter is in feet. So we'll start by converting everything to feet and trying to find the perimeters, the dimensions of each one of the figures. So first the rectangle. Well, we'll abbreviate it rec. The rectangle is 24 inches by 72 inches. So to change them to feet, we'll just divide them both by 12. Start with the 24 divided by 12 is 2 feet. by 72 divided by 12, which is 6 feet. Okay, that's the first important thing to know. The second important thing is that, well, if the square has a perimeter of 4 feet, that means that 4 times its side length, s, is equal to 4 feet, which means that s must equal 1 foot. Okay, so its side length must be 1 foot. 1 foot. Okay, great. We'll use that information to say, well, if a rectangle is 2 feet by 6 feet, that means it can fit 2 squares going in one direction and 6 squares going in the other direction for a total of 12 squares. So again, let's see if, whoa, look at us going crazy here. 12 squares. So we'll say 2 squares by 6 squares equals 12 squares. The second way we could look at it is to say, well, what about areas? Now that we found the dimensions, we could say that the area of the rectangle, 2 feet by 6 feet, is 12 square feet, and that the area of the square, 1 foot by 1 foot, is 1 square foot. So we can just take the area of the rectangle, which is 12 square feet, divide it by the area of the square, which is 1 square foot, to get our final answer, again, of 12 squares. Either way, 12 squares. Thanks. Well, that's all she wrote. Another successful Math League practice under our belts. Don't forget, again, to add up the point totals for your 1, 2, or 3 point responses here and send them to me via Edmodo message, please. So don't post it on the Edmodo site, just send me a direct message. Okay, great. Thanks, guys.